This video is brought to you by Law Excellence IAS Academy.
Dear students, good morning. Let us start the discussion on today's newspaper, that is 13th April 2019. The first article, Message from the Martyrs of Jallianwala Bagh. Let us understand a brief background of Jallianwala Bagh. So, Rowlatt Act was passed, and this Rowlatt Act itself was draconian. A person can be detained without trial. Life and liberty of the citizens was made a mockery. And against this, Gandhiji called for a protest. And the people were protesting in Delhi and they were fired upon. But the worst massacre happened in Jallianwala Bagh, a park in Amritsar. On a Baisakhi day, people gathered over there to celebrate. And before that, Saifuddin Kichlu and Satyapal were arrested by the police under Rowlatt Act. So in this context, there is a peaceful gathering. Mr. General Dyer, he came over there and fired indiscriminately against that peaceful gathering, which led to the killing of more than 400 people. So in this context, after the Delhi deaths happened, Rabindranath Tagore wrote a letter to Gandhiji. So in this, Tagore talks about the power of spirit. How the Tagore argues is this: the Rowlatt Act is an arrogance of power, a demonstration of arrogance of power. So this arrogance of power has to be countered with moral superiority. So this moral superiority comes from the power of spirit. So what is this power of spirit? It is faith in goodness of humanity. Believing that one human is sensitive to the other and he is trying to do good for the other. So the faith in goodness of the people shall dominate the arrogance of the power of the colonialists. So in this context, the Tagore's poem on the power of spirit: give me the faith of life in death, and faith of victory in defeat, and faith of power hidden in the frailness of beauty, and faith of dignity of pain that accepts the hurt but disdains to return it. So remember this thing: the faith of life in death, faith of victory in defeat. These two words, these are the intricate part of the power of spirit. So you can use these points in your ethics answer writing and also for essay. So the solidarity with suffering is an important. So today, Safai Karmacharis, and if you talk about Dalits, atrocities against women, all these are victims. Showing the solidarity with the suffering has to take different forms. So here, Tagore took renunciation as a form. He gave away his knighthood against the Jallianwala Bagh massacre. So today also this arrogance of power is there in our society. This is visible when a politician slaps a particular citizen, or arrogance of power, majoritarianism dominates minorities, or to that extent, Dalits are beaten to death by the upper caste, or upper classes are trying to dominate economically the lower classes. In every sphere, we have this power of arrogance. In India today, as Tagore said, the power of spirit has to dominate, has to counter the power of arrogance. That is what is the lesson we need to learn. So that's where human freedom, the beacon, all of us to give human freedom, respect, human beings' dignity, and human rights recognition. So this is what is nothing but power of spirit. Respect for human freedoms, dignity for human beings, and recognition for human rights. These three things together, these are called as power of spirit. A grim future in Israel. So this article talks about the right-wing victory in Israel elections and Mr. Netanyahu becoming the prime minister for the 5th consecutive term. Let us try to understand the Israel and Palestine problem. So you know the Gaza Strip, and then here West Bank, and in between you have the Israel regions. So these are the occupied territories of the Israel in 1967. And another conflict area is Jerusalem. Now, these people who are original occupants of the land of the Israel, these have become the refugees in the neighboring countries and also in Gaza Strip and in West Bank. So the refugees have a right to come back to the Israel. So the right of refugees to return back to their motherland, this is not being accepted by the Israel till date. And the second, there are many Arabs who are living in the Israel territory itself. So there are many refugees who are outside this. living in Gaza Strip, West Bank, and also in Jordan, Syria, Egypt, etc. All these people want to return back to their motherland. And the second, what about the status of Palestine? So the Gaza Strip and West Bank are expected to become Palestine under two state solution. But however, today Israel appears to be blatantly opposing to this particular solution. So let us see the Netanyahu. In 2018, there is an act which is passed by the Knesset, the Parliament of Israel. This is the basic law, the fundamental law. What it states is Israel is a nation state for Jews. It means that it do not recognize other religious communities living in the land of Israel. So then what about the huge chunk of population who are living in this Israel, the Palestinians? And what about the people who are displaced because of the occupation of the Israel into the neighboring countries? So at least if these are not recognized, what about the people who are living already on that particular land? So Israel has blatantly refused the rights of the people who are living in that land and who are not the Jews. And the second, it also says the right of self-determination exists only for the Jews, and Hebrew is the official language, is the only language. And the most controversial of the basic law is Jerusalem is recognized as the capital of Israel. You know, Jerusalem has holy spaces for Arabs, Jews, Christians, everyone. So in this context, everyone are claiming for right over in Jerusalem. But however, the basic law is against this. In a way, the UN mandated declaration of right of refugees to return back to Israel was condemned, opposed by this particular basic law. And here we need to see the Trump. When Obama was the president, he wanted to redesign the regional architecture in this area. So previous regimes during George Bush, etc., they are unequivocally supportive of Israel. So what Obama did through Iran nuclear deal is he has recognized the another axis of power. So Iran one axis, Saudi Arabia another axis, and Israel another axis. But however, the Trump administration has scrapped this Iran nuclear deal. And the second thing, it is unequivocally supporting the Netanyahu's actions. It has recognized sovereignty of Israel on Golan Heights and also shifted its embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. So recognizing the Jerusalem as the capital city of Israel. And Trump is no hurry to recognize two-state solution. Emboldened by this support from the United States of America, Mr. Netanyahu is more becoming extreme in his position. So in this context, what shall be the view from India? Remember it. India was supportive of the Palestinian cause. Initially, Israel did not even have embassy in India. So it was the P.V. Narasimha Rao era which established the diplomatic relations with Israel. And before establishing them, P.V. Narasimha Rao even talked to Mr. Yasser Arafat on his visit to India. And the second thing, then the Prime Minister Vajpayee, he has deepened the relations. Today we have strong military relations with Israel. But during the Modi's regime, Israel is more seen as an example India has to imitate. So the new India shall follow the culture and the voice and the style of Israel. That's what is being stated. So do you think in a multicultural country, diverse country such as India, can we emulate the example of Israel, how it did, how it was assertive against the people? So if you see the Israel, when the people are marching on to return back to their homelands, they have indiscriminately fight against them. And also there was Gaza blockade. When Hamas came to power, the entire Gaza was blocked. It was made as a huge open air jail in the world. So this kind of things cannot be expected. But whatever be the case, India shall move beyond tokenism to support the cause of the Palestinians. That is what is the essence of this article is. Not half done. So this is about the first phase of the poll which is conducted. So polling in Jammu and Kashmir by and large is peaceful and voter turnout is also reasonable. In the by-elections of Srinagar, only 2% of the people have voted. Now, in Baramulla kind of constituency, around 30% of the people have voted. That itself is a positive sign. So, democratic forces taking the lead in Jammu and Kashmir is a very strong sign for their connect to India. And the next is, Election Commission is supposed to be a non-partisan empire. It shall not sway towards any political party. So this is where Election Commission slowly losing its legitimacy and credibility. Let me explain this. When this Shakti mission was launched, the Election Commission did not condemn the Prime Minister. And then Mr. Yogi Adityanath made a comment on Indian Army as the army of Mr. Modi. And the third thing, recently, Prime Minister Modi has requested the young voters or the first time voters to vote in and dedicate their vote to the armed forces, Air Force. So this all shows that establishment is misusing the institutions for its own electoral gains. So this is where Election Commission did not act decisively. So that's where the trust and non-partisanship of Election Commission is coming into question. But on the positive side, EVM tampering was a big issue in UP elections. Now VVPATs are being attached to every EVM, and as per the Supreme Court judgment, 5 VVPAT machines will be counted for each constituency. In that way, the myths surrounding the EVMs can be dispelled with. So this is about voter turnout. And seeing darkness, this is about the image of the black hole. The Event Horizon Telescope collaboration of the telescopes across the world, it has brought in the image of the black hole. It means we did not see the black hole per se. The last photon ring surrounding the black hole, that's what we are able to see in this scientific experiment. So in the theory of relativity proposed by the Einstein, first time he spoke about the gravitational waves and also the black holes, merging of black holes. So the LIGO collaboration, previous international collaboration, was able to identify the gravitational waves. Now, this telescope collaboration, Horizon EVT collaboration, it is able to identify the black hole. It means the future of scientific experiments is not confined to one country. It is expected to spread across the borders, and it is going to happen in more collaborative approach. The development of the computer sciences and also technological maneuvering and technological capabilities in the developing countries is making a way forward for this, and India also has participated in every experiment in this. This is what seeing darkness. In Sudan, a strongman falls, but the regime he built stays. So let us understand the Sudan story. In 1989, Mr. Bashir, a colonel in the Sudanese army, captured the power in a coup. And then he built an state structure which is filled with the military elite. And in the initial years, he has introduced the Islamic legal code, and it also has become the heaven for jihadis. So that's where United States of America has declared it as part of or a country that is sponsoring terrorism, that is a part of state-sponsored terror network. Now, the later developments, if you observe, the Darfur region in the western Sudan, it has people have raised the slogans for their rights. Then military-sponsored private army Zanzibar, it has massacred the people. Under this international criminal court, it has imposed the punishment for Mr. Bashir. And the second is Mr. Bashir is also said to be reason for liberation movement in southern Sudan. The southern Sudan, it is very rich in oil resources, and the People Liberation Army, Sudan People Liberation Army, it has raised the voice as the southern Sudan is not well represented in the state structure of Mr. Bashir, and autonomy was given initially. Later, finally, in 2011, if I am not wrong, a southern Sudan nation has come into existence. Here, oil fields, oil wealth is in southern Sudan. Pipe network and control over these piping network is in the northern Sudan. So the southern Sudan, after it got split away, the wealth of it is gone. And this has brought in huge crisis in the Sudan itself. Inflation is all-time high and the jobs have gone. Because of this, the resentment against Mr. Bashir's regime increased. And in this scenario, the people wanted to throw Mr. Bashir out. But Bashir alone, they are not talking about. They are talking about the entire establishment created by the Bashir. But however, the military or the elite which the Bashir created took over the power, and today military council, it is what is governing it. Now the second, in another African country which also has rich oil resources, that is Algeria, Mr. Bouteflika also established its own military elite regime. So there also military took over the control, but the people's movement is about throwing away the entire regime rather than the leadership alone. That is the point which you need to remember. Finally, thank you very much. Have a good day. All the best.